everyone, how are you today? I hope you're doing great. I feel really nice myself today. And generally, I want to remind you that if you haven't if you haven't watched the previous classes, you can always go back and watch them. Of course, if you have watched them, you can always go back and revise. It's a very good opportunity for you to do that. And as always, don't forget to write your comments in the comment section and in the live chat section. And I want you to tell me, how do you feel today? As always, you can just give me an adjective. If you want to make it easier, you can just find the emoji that represents your feeling for today and send it to me. Today, I personally feel very, very grateful that everything is fine and that I am healthy. And I will not go further. I will not reveal our topic of discussion today yet, because I want to work a little bit on your prediction skills. I'm going to show you a video, but the sound will be off. So I want you to think about it a little bit. I will not show you the whole video, but I will just show you some excerpts. And then tell me, write down in the comment section, what do you think this video is about? So let's watch. I will mute this. It's a very interesting video, really. So I want you to pay close attention. And I will move forward a little bit. Now, usually by that time, many people have a good idea of what this could be about. I usually have many different reactions, to tell you the truth. But if you have guessed, type your answer. Tell me what you think it's about. And we will just watch for a few more seconds. I will stop it here. So I want you to think a little bit and tell me. Many of you may have a good idea. Alright, so this is the title of the video, The Age Simulation Suit. This is what it feels to be old. So some of you guessed it, some of you not. It is an age simulation suit. So what you watched was a young man wearing this suit and trying to feel what it is like to be old with all the restrictions that this entails. So now we're going to watch a second time with sound, and I want you to answer these two questions actually. What is the equipment about first? How do they usually use it? And What are the difficulties and limitations of a simple task, such as buying coffee? You saw the man buying coffee with the suit. So let's see what are the difficulties. And you don't need to listen to all of them, but whatever you listen, you can just type it and send it to me. So, are you ready to start? Let's go. Sorry.
We are an ageing society. There are more people over the age of 65, and that proportion of the demographic is growing. You may be 25 today, but you'll be 65 one day, and you would want people to recognise your abilities as well as your disabilities. We bought the old age simulation suit a couple of months ago to use in the workshops that we deliver to NHS trusts around London, particularly focusing on healthcare assistants, so that they really understand the experience of the patients that they're looking after.
And outside hospitals, do you feel like there's a problem with society in our attitudes towards old people these days?
You may be 25 today, but you'll be 65 one day, and you would want people to recognise your abilities as well as your disabilities.
So if you were to set an everyday task that I would do, what would that be when I put the suit on?
I suggest that we go outside the classroom that we're in now. We're on an upper floor, so I guess you could try some stairs. We could also go down and see if you can manage to purchase yourself a cup of coffee. That might seem a very simple task to you, but I think when you've got the bodysuit on, you'll find perhaps it's not quite as easy as you may think. There are things to put on your arms and your hands, and you'll find your dexterity and your finger movements restricted. We've got a range of various spectacles that simulate different eye conditions. Your flexibility will be limited as well. The weight of the bodysuit will reduce your mobility and movement.
Absolutely out of breath, and that was 2 flights of stairs.
If you were a healthcare assistant coming for a training day, you don't really want to just sit and listen to what people are telling you about the experience of old age. It's really important that you can empathise and understand their experience.
It's just a blur of pictures, I can't see any words at all.
How was it bending down?
It's a nightmare, I didn't think I was coming back up. Sorry? 2 sugars please, yeah, thank you.
Have you got any way of knowing whether you got the correct change or not?
No, it's just 2 silver coins, just put it straight back in my pocket. You just got to trust people.
Thank you.
That felt like an achievement.
Is the lid on firmly enough for you? Do you feel secure?
If anyone brushes past me, it's gone.
The coffee's gone.
I had to fully swivel my body there.
Yeah.
Trying to see if there's a bike coming.
And again?
God, that's
slightly made you stagger that, didn't it?
Yeah, you got to have your head fully down at the floor to look for any sort of graduation in there.
You wouldn't think that neck restriction was so disabling, would you?
When you double that with the loss of peripheral vision, it's just frightening. I mean, this is a fairly quiet road, thank God.
There's no traffic, so you're quite safe, but it's quite a high curb.
I want to get over this thing as fast as possible.
Another curb up. That's it.
Made it. Just those things that you took away completely change how I feel and how confident I would be going outside.
You put in these coping strategies quite quickly. You were using your feet to feel for the edges of curbs.
Towards the end I was dragging my feet along the floor, partly so I could feel the bumps, but also because my legs were just tired by that point.
It became a major expedition, didn't it?
Felt like an afternoon out.
Alright guys, so this was the video, and generally keep in mind that it's something that we neglect to think about. How do old people feel? What are their restrictions that they face in their daily life? So try to have that in mind. And let's take a look at the answers in the 2 questions. For our first question, what is the equipment about? It's the old age simulation suit, And they use it mainly to train healthcare assistants, which I think is a brilliant idea actually. And what are the difficulties of buying a cup of coffee? Too many. Some of them can be the blur. Your vision is blurry, you can't really see well. How are you going to see how much is it? Or maybe how are you going to check the receipt? Of course, there is an inability to bend down. You saw that when the change fell on the floor, it was very difficult for him to bend and grab them. And you just have to trust people because there is no way you can see if you got the correct change. And then imbalance is there as well. Remember when he was holding the cup of coffee, he said that if anyone brushes past me right now, this coffee is gone. And very important again, the lack of peripheral vision. So these are only some of the disabilities and the restrictions that elderly people may face. And that's why I want to remind you, next time you see your elderly parents or your grandparents, ask them how do they feel. And try to really listen to how they feel. Because they are people. Old people sometimes are ignored as if they don't have feelings. They do. And they are quite a large part of our population. So don't forget them. And I want to move on to take a look at a stereotype actually. I will not tell more. I have two categories, elderly and teenagers. And I want you to try and categorize the adjectives that you see on the screen to describe elderly or teenagers. I will give you a minute to think about that. And I will also read them for you once. Absent-minded, adventurous, vulnerable, bad-tempered, kind, lazy, moody, narrow-minded, self-centered, stubborn, unenthusiastic, clumsy, weak, and wise. Now, most people here ask me, what does moody mean? Moody is a person who changes their mood really fast. From really happy, you can go to really sad in a very small period of time. And others usually ask me about the word clumsy. So clumsy is when you cannot control your body movement very well. So you may throw objects down very easily, or you may fall over objects like chairs or coffee tables very easily. So I don't know what your personal categorization was, but many people tend to use very, very stereotypical adjectives to describe elderly, for example. Of course, the image of an elderly person is bad-tempered, stubborn, weak, narrow-minded, and some others give again another stereotypical image to teenagers, like lazy, unenthusiastic, absent-minded. I personally think that all these adjectives can be used to describe any age group. So keep in mind, guys, the elderly can be lively people, can be enthusiastic people, and sometimes the fact that we neglect them, that does not let them express themselves. Alright, now let's move on to something else. And and it's a little bit of grammar really. Okay, we are going to talk about adjectives used as nouns. The word elderly is an adjective that is used as a noun. And I will read 3 sentences for you, but not all of them are correct. I will not tell you how many are. I just want you to think which does not sound really good, which might be wrong. You see the first sentence. The elderly may suffer from depression. Elderly people may suffer from depression. The elderly people may suffer from depression. Take a look at the differences. What are the differences between the 3 sentences? And which one of them is wrong? Oops, I said that it's only one that is wrong, so you can take my hint. If you focus, you will see that actually all the differences are in the beginning of the sentence. The part that goes may suffer from depression is the same in all of them, in all 3 of them. So let's check if your thoughts were right. The wrong sentence is the last one. Why is that? When you have an adjective that is used to represent a group, so it's used as a noun, such as elderly, you have 2 options. You can either use the article, the elderly, and you don't need a noun after that. So, the elderly may suffer. Your second option is to just use a noun and not an article this time. So you can say elderly people may suffer from depression. But you can never combine both of them. You cannot combine the article and the noun in this specific case. So we could not say the elderly people. You need to choose just one of these elements. So I have an exercise for you to practice first in relation to other adjectives that are used as nouns. So on the left you can see the definitions, people without money. On the right you need to match the correct adjective that is used to describe this group of people. I will give you a minute to think about it, and you can type your answers in the comment section and the live chat. And while you're doing that, I will pronounce the words once for you. It's deaf, dead, blind, poor, homeless, unemployed. So the stress here is employed, unemployed. And usually I get one question here. What is the different pronunciation between the first word that you see, deaf, and the noun that comes from the verb die, which is death? I know that this can be a confusing sound, the f and the th. Just remember that the position of your lips and your teeth here is a bit different. When you pronounce the f in deaf, your teeth are behind your bottom lip, deaf. Okay, your top teeth behind your bottom lip, deaf. But when you pronounce the sound th, your tongue is between your teeth. Okay, so it's the th, deaf. death, and death. Alright, and with that note, let's see the answers. People without money, of course, it's the poor. People without a job, the unemployed. People without a home, the homeless. People with hearing disabilities, as we said, the deaf. People with visual impairment, the blind. And people who are not alive is the dead. So this was just to practice other adjectives that are used as nouns. And now we'll practice a little bit on the syntax. Again, you can take a look at the 3 sentences. Remember, only the first one and the second one are correct. You either need the or the noun. So our exercise. I have given you some hints here. I have given you the group, people who are old, and another word that you can use in your sentence, like depression. So this is our example, the sentence that we have above. So you're supposed to write people who are old. What is this group? It's the elderly. And depression, you can use different verbs if you want, like the elderly have depression. Okay, the elderly suffer from depression. That's fine as long as you use the first group correctly. And of course, you could also say elderly people have depression. So you can choose one of the 2 forms. I will give you a minute to do that. Think about it, and you can write your answers in the comments. So I will just read the hints for you to listen to the pronunciation as well. Number 2, people from Italy, sense of style. People without home, weather conditions. People with money, not happy. People without a job, financial difficulties. Okay, so remember there are 2 options for each answer, the elderly or elderly people, the French or French people. So let's take a look at the answers. I have only written the first possible one with the article, okay, the elderly, but you could also say elderly people. Okay, the Italian have a sense of style, or Italian people. The homeless have to deal with extreme weather conditions, or homeless people. The rich are not always happy, or rich people. And the unemployed face financial difficulties, or unemployed people. So how did you do? Tell me in the answers. And I know sometimes it can be a little bit confusing, but remember, this happens only with this specific type of adjectives that are used as nouns to represent a specific group. It doesn't happen with all the adjectives. Okay, so let's move on now, and we will continue talking about adjectives. This time I want you to think that you want to describe something, but you want to use more than one adjective, more than 2 adjectives. So my question is, how would you order the adjectives. Which would go first? Which would go second? And what types of adjectives you could use? You could talk about a pattern. Like if you have a t-shirt, it's a striped t-shirt. Okay. You could talk about the origin. It's a French food. You could talk about the age. It's something vintage, something new. Or an opinion. Beautiful, wonderful, something that is a personal opinion. Not everybody would agree with that. You could describe with a color, okay, a blue t-shirt. A shape, okay, a square table. And of course a size, it's a big present. And last but not least, the material. It's a wooden table. So I want you to think about these words and try to put them in the correct order, according to your idea. What goes first, what goes second, etc. You can type the order that you think is correct in the comments. And it's okay, even if you're not sure, just type your answer, try to take a guess, okay? Try to see it as a game, as a quiz. See how many will get correct. Which one do you think is the first? Is it size, color, shape, age, opinion? I know it can be kind of hard, and the truth is that native speakers usually they don't know this rule, but they use it correctly because it's something natural, it's something that you just learn to follow. And then remember that we don't usually use so many nouns to describe something. We usually use tops 2 or 3 nouns, so in that case it would be easier for you to remember it. So let's see the correct order. That's the order. We start with opinion, something personal. Size, age, shape. Color, pattern, origin. And we finish with material. So my tip for you is, if you remember that opinion is always the first one, material is always the last one, this can help you. And if you can find your own personal memory techniques to remember the rest of it, then you're very welcome. My memory technique is that I make abbreviations like SAS, size, age, shape, okay, or CPO, color, pattern, origin. So you can try something similar. And in order to give you an example, this is how you can describe a book. Imagine a children's book, okay? It's a funny, small, new, square, colorful, striped English paper book. But as I told you before, it's really, really rare to use all these adjectives. We wouldn't use 8 adjectives to describe a noun, so we would mostly use 3, maybe. This funny, small, colorful book, with the stripes. And I'll just give you a few examples to practice on your own. I want you to think a car, a house, a t-shirt, and a bag. And try to find not 8, try to find 2 or 3 adjectives to describe them, okay? Just the bare minimum. So think about the car. You can describe the size, the color, the origin. About a house, maybe you can describe the age, the color, the material. What about a t-shirt? Maybe your opinion, if you like it or not. The size, the color. And of course, with a bag, you could use an opinion, age, color, origin. It's up to you, whatever you want, really. And you can type your answers in the comment section, okay? Sometimes I know it can be harder to think on demand, but it's actually a good technique. And generally, you can think of items that you usually describe, something that people ask you to describe a lot, or things that you need to describe, like t-shirts. If you want to find your t-shirt, you don't know where it is, you ask someone, "Did you see my t-shirt? Which one?" You know, this new t-shirt, red and striped, I bought it 2 weeks ago. So you can use that in this case. You can keep writing and sending me the answers, and I will show you some examples that I wrote. Okay, about the car, we say a small new Italian car. Size, age, origin. A cozy old wooden house. Okay, opinion, cozy. Age and material. A large red spotted t-shirt. Spotted is a pattern. Okay, it has spots like dots. And a bag, fashionable black leather bag. So I think up to 3 adjectives is a good practice for you. And just try to follow my tip. Try to use your own memory techniques if you want to remember that, the order, and in time you will be able to remember it naturally. Actually, you will not have to remember it, you will have to use it, just that. So, I will just recap what we talked about today. We focused a little bit on mediation. What is mediation? Using media to convey meanings. So we focus on predicting. Okay, we saw the muted video and you had to predict, and we listened for details. We did some vocabulary and pronunciation. We saw the adjectives like elderly, homeless, etc. And we focused mostly on grammar as well. Adjectives that are used as nouns and the order of these adjectives. So, please let me know if you have any questions. Tell me, what did you think about what we learned today? And as always, try to think, what did you learn today? And write it in the comment section. I want to see what stuck with you, what stayed in your mind. And it is really helpful for you to think about what you learned in each lesson, reflect about it, but it is also really helpful for me so I can think what sticks with you and what you like. Alright guys, so this was the end of our class for today. Thank you very much for being here. Have a great day and I'll see you next class. Bye bye.